Welcome to another episode of the Marvel Masterworks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie. Donnie, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, what's up, comic book fans? It's the man whose ring runs on fanboy energy, the podcasting machine, the big nerd in green. It's the Emerald Enthusiast, here to talk to you about a world if there were no Avengers.
Indeed. And just so you know, Radu's wasn't open, so I had to go to Tim Hortons. So, there we go.
Marvel fans may not get that. Read Green Lantern Volume 3.
You I should have saved that for when we record the Green Lantern.
Right. Well, I got the Radu cup right there.
Yeah, everybody knows. Yeah, we educate on both sides of the aisle.
Exactly. We bring people together. We're uniters of the law.
Yeah, we unite people through comics. There's a Twitter handle uniting people through wrestling, so I'm going to appropriate that and say uniting people through comics. How about that?
Right. Sounds great to me.
That's a tough task because all you got to do is go on Twitter and you'll see how not united.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, for those that are united, welcome to this episode. Right. We are going to talk about the main focus of today's episode will be the latest two episodes of Marvel's What If, which involved, as Donnie inferred, what if the world did not have the Avengers, and what if Doctor Strange was Zack Snyder dark? But before we do that, there's some comic news from the self-proclaimed House of Ideas. So let's discuss it.
Okay.
These new initiatives they are sort of the next phase of Marvel Comics in celebration of their 82nd anniversary. Is that possible?
Well, Timely Comics started in what was it, 1940 or 1939?
Oh, okay, so
yes.
The precursor.
Remember that? Yeah, they were Timely before they were Marvel.
So I guess it is possible. See, like in my brain, Marvel Comics started with
Spider-Man, yeah.
Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four. So
right.
But yeah, I digress. But so we're getting a whole slew of new titles. Some ongoing, some one-shot specials, some miniseries. And the first up is their
1939 was the advent of Timely. I was correct. So
yes. So the year after Superman and the same year as Batman. So that was a good two year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good times. Yeah. I mean, wasn't there a recession? But aside from that.
Well, yeah. Well, and we were
in the comics.
We're also on the verge of a war by that point.
Yeah, but aside from all that, the comic stuff was cool.
Right, yeah, the comic stuff was good.
It's like somebody talking about 2020 and 2021. Yeah, there was a pandemic, there was the racism galore, but the comics were good.
Well, the comics were good, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, and I believe I read somewhere at one point that in World War II, 1 out of every 4 care packages that were sent to soldiers contained a comic book.
Good for that. I mean, that's the top tier care packaging, if you ask me.
A lot of Captain America, I'm assuming. So
yeah, probably most of it would have been, yeah. So let's start with the title that features Marvel's, foremost, team-up book, the group team, which is obviously the Avengers. Some will say the X-Men, but I say it's the Avengers. Dispute me all you want, but that's what I think. So the series is called Avengers Forever. And I'm going to add a colon, and then from the first hero to the last, every time I read it, because that's what I'm going to do.
I knew where you were going with
that. But so it's going to be written by Jason Aaron, and drawn by Aaron Kruger.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's a lot of Aarons.
Is this replacing Earth's Mightiest Heroes?
I believe that is going to end, and this will eventually begin.
That's what I'm getting right now. So
imagine so it's the equivalent of Superman ending and becoming Superman, son of Kal-El. The same idea. So, Jason Aaron's been writing the Avengers for years, and he's been doing quite well, if you ask me. And then they did the whole, he sent them to the past, remember, the far past, which we touched on, I think, a bit. Mm-hmm. He did Heroes Reborn, which didn't end up being my cup of tea, but still, it was what it was. And now there's going to be a massive conclusion with Avengers 750. And then what we're going to get is a book, as I said, titled Avengers Forever. And it's going to focus on multiversal versions of the Avengers.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Sure.
So we're going to have, for example, one of these multiverse scenarios is, I'll read the preview. It says, Marvel Comics Avengers Forever pulls together archaeologist Tony Stark, a.k.a. the Invincible Ant-Man.
Aha, that's a change, yeah.
And Avengers from across the multiverse to bring order to timelines where hope is a four-letter word. Jason Aaron and Aaron Kruger present an all-new series that will redefine the Avengers as the multiverse's mightiest heroes.
Okay. Hope is a four-letter word, so...
Yeah, there are plenty of other four-letter words, too. Which,
well, I guess
if the Leafs are playing, I often use. But, listen, multiverse, anything with the multiverse, from comics to my wives, I'm in.
I was going to ask, are your wives in this? Any other versions of you?
They are. I mean, I may have to put this on my physical pull list as opposed to the digital.
Well, and I've got to ask you, is there a version of you out there that's a Canadiens fan? Do you think that's possible?
Well, listen, I'll tell you what. If there is, I'm going to find him and hurt him. And number two, because I won't say kill him, because if I kill a multiverse version of myself, does that harm me in any way? That's the paradox. These are the questions I have to ask myself. And that if that world does exist, then it's like the equivalent of remember in the DC crossover, the one where they went the multiverse Earth, what was it? Crisis on Earth X.
Yes.
So the world where there's a me that is a Montreal Canadiens fan. Mm-hmm. Is the world where Nazis won the war. I'll just say that. Oh. And as like I said, if my multiverse wives are in this, they, right now, this is automatically going on my digital pull list. Right. Okay. If my multiverse wives happen to be in this, then it's going on my physical pull list. But I'm in for this. Like, I'm a sucker for multiverses. So.
Oh yeah, I definitely like multiverses. I mean, comics are. They're kind of inextricably linked at this point,
So I'm in.
Do you know what a paradox is? A paradox?
You're going to make a joke, so what is that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's two physicians.
That's actually a good one. Really, you're like a really white version of The Rock in you really are. All right, so. Next one,
in any comparison to The Rock, I'll take that as a compliment. So.
Yeah, somewhere out there, the five viewers and listeners of this show podcast are chanting your name, Donnie.
There we go.
I'm not going to say millions because we don't have millions of listeners. But
we do have 98 as of today, though.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, there we go. So
right.
98 people are chanting your name.
Yes, and
those same 98 are probably telling me to shut up. But anyway, I did. The next series that I think is quite interesting is called Marvel Timeless.
Okay.
And it says, the future of the Marvel Universe is here, and Timeless is where it all begins. When a threatening new timeline emerges, Kang the Conqueror. That's one of the best villain names I've ever heard. I'm just throwing that out there.
It just sounds intimidating.
Kang it sounds like a wrestling villain. Yeah. Anyway, Kang the Conqueror must fight his way through the coming year to protect the main 616 timeline, not as opposed to the 316 timeline. He's worked centuries to solidify as his own. Jed McKay, Kev Walker, and Joe Bennett, Mark Bagley, and more provide a first look at what's coming to the Marvel Universe in 2022.
That's a lot of talent right there.
In a story that will prove the future is, wait for it, timeless.
I like it.
I didn't make it up. That's Marvel's PR people. So
you mentioned the 316 timeline.
Yeah.
316 universe. You think there was ever a universe where Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled Stunning Steve Austin?
I'd find that fascinating.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. So you get a bit of everything on this show. It's ridiculous.
Exactly.
All right. So obviously we know that She-Hulk is coming to Disney Plus, right? We knew that.
I'm very excited about that. Yeah.
So I was just waiting for the eventuality that Marvel would say, you know what? Let's make a comic about, or let's, they've made comics about her, but let's reintroduce a comic with She-Hulk. And shocking, that's exactly what they're doing.
Exactly.
In January of 22, so here's what the description is. Marvel Comics She-Hulk from Rainbow Rowell and, oh boy, I can't pronounce this, Roger Antonio basically throws the book at Jennifer Walters as she tries to put her rage-filled days behind her and return to practicing law in defense of the innocent. But when a friend from her past comes knocking with a mystery she can't resist, She-Hulk gets back to bashing.
Yeah. Who do you think that's going to be?
A friend from her past?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. That's a good question. It won't be Bruce Banner, because they would have described her cousin comes knocking at the door.
Right.
So I don't know. And you know, the beauty of this book is I have no experience with either the writer or the artist, so this will be totally new to me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I know you're a big fan of She-Hulk, so
definitely, yes. Yeah.
Are you excited about this book then?
Definitely, yeah.
All right. Good. So that's another one.
And by the way, see, I do have a thing for green women, I guess. And if you'd like to hear about another green woman, you can listen to us on the Emerald Echo podcast when we talk about the origins of Jenny Lynn Hayden, a.k.a. Jade.
Yeah, definitely. And also, just you said that you have a preference for green women.
Yeah.
I hope that means that you don't have your wife paint herself, because that's a little, I mean, I draw the line there, Donnie. I'm going to have to call somebody to get you some help if that's the case, because that's unacceptable, sir. I won't stand for it, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah. I mean, if it's Halloween, it's one thing.
Yeah. Halloween, the bottom line is, I've got a lady who accommodates all this behind
Listen, me. I think you and your wife should go as the Hulk and She-Hulk for Halloween.
Oh, okay.
Why not? Or if it's on the other side of the comic book aisle, you could be Mogo, the Living Planet, and she could be, Jenny Lynn Hayden, as we're talking about.
Yeah.
There's an idea. Another book that I'm intrigued about, because I will always support this character because he's a good Canadian boy. Wolverine. I'm talking about him like he's real. He is real to me, damn it. Anytime there's a Canadian character, I get excited. What else? I'm tapping. What else?
You're like that guy at that convention who was asking Jim Cornette about Dick Murdoch. It's still real to me.
Yeah.
Talking about wrestling, you remember that?
So there's a book called what is the actual the logo is confusing. So it says Lives of Wolverine and Deaths of Wolverine is the book.
Okay.
It's by the creative team. Well, I'll just read the description because it's going to.
Go ahead, sir.
It says House of X and Powers of X ushered in the first Krakoan age of the X-Men. Now Marvel Comics Lives of Wolverine, or X Lives of Wolverine and X Deaths of Wolverine will test the best there is at what he does before any mutant can survive to the second Krakoan age. Benjamin Percy, Joshua Cassera, and Federico, I should be able to pronounce this, it seems like Italian or Spanish, Vicentini, tells two interlocked tales about what happens to Wolverine when his past meets his future.
That's interesting.
Like I said, I love Wolverine. So
yeah, I'm assuming we'll see Old Man Logan in that.
Probably. And the fact that he calls himself the best is at what he, is at what he does. That's kind of a Bret Hart-ism.
Right.
So,
pretty close. Yeah.
So I got to support my boy there, Wolverine. And I do have, I don't know if I told you this or I showed you this, but I bought actual Wolverine one. I didn't buy both because that would have been too expensive. But I have a Wolverine claw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sharp and it's like steel. It's
oh, awesome.
Yeah. So if anybody attacks my house, I'll just pull that off the wall. And
there you go.
Go nuts.
I actually have a nephew named after Wolverine. I kid you not. His name is Logan.
Logan?
Yes.
And did his parents name him that on purpose?
Yes. He is named after.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
I actually think his mother, she had something else in mind, but my friend who named him that is a huge Wolverine fan.
The father was like, you can think it's for whatever you want, but this is why.
I knew exactly where that started. So
his wife was like, oh yeah, we named him after this person, that person, and then the husband's like,
right. So far, I'm failing in my efforts to get my daughters to name if they have a son, naming Kyle. So
I think they should.
I'm still working on it.
At least the middle name,
Yeah. I need a grandson, Kyle. So.
And then you could just call him Kyle. Right. Like whatever his actual name is, you could say, yeah, screw that. When I'm babysitting, this is your name.
This is your name, yeah.
Deal with it. All right, so here's the next one I'm interested in obvious reasons.
Okay.
It's a Marvel event, so I don't think it's an ongoing thing. But I was very saddened to learn this past week that I believe it's in November, Daredevil will end the title.
Okay.
But in the solicitation, it said for now. So I was like, ooh, there's hope for more. Because that four-letter word,
right.
And so we have a title called Devil's Reign. And it's by Chip Zdarsky, who I believe is also Canadian. So,
all right.
And if he's not, well, you should have been. And artist Marco Cicchetto, who is Italian. So, because I'm of Italian descent, thumbs up for you too, sir. The Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
That's great.
So, yeah, Devil's Reign. Here's the description. It says, all hell breaks loose in the Marvel Universe as the Kingpin finally declares an all-out war on the heroes in Devil's Reign. Having set the stage in their Eisner-nominated Daredevil epic, Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto's far-reaching crossover event finds Mayor Fisk outlawing all superheroes in New York and unleashing intel on all their dark secrets, while pitting Daredevil, Elektra, Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four, and many more against his Thunderbolts agents.
Wow.
But in the end, who will reign?
Well, you had me at Mayor Fisk. Sounds interesting. So
yeah, I was going to get this because like that creative team was doing gangbusters on Daredevil, and I love like I think I've said this before. I've been doing, I don't know, well, this part I haven't said because it just happened recently, but I've been doing a deeper dive on some Spider-Man stuff because I know we're going to cover him more frequently on this show in the near future. So, and I'm finding that he's slightly becoming my favorite Marvel character. Like he was up there in the pantheon, of Marvel characters. But he's slightly overtaking Daredevil. That's taking nothing away from Daredevil. I'll always love Daredevil. The fact that he has a disability, that will always be. And he was the first Marvel book I ever picked up was a Daredevil book.
Fair point. Sure.
You'll always have that. You'll always be 1B, if so to speak. But so I was going to be in this because of Daredevil, regardless. So But I've been getting more into Spider-Man, and I think some of the allure to Spider-Man is because the character's cool, his abilities, he's got a cool costume, the whole 9 yards, the relatable issues and all that jazz. But second to Batman, in my opinion, he's got the best, the second best rogues gallery in comics. Does Spider-Man? So, but this is not about Spider-Man. Daredevil, anything with Daredevil in it is basically on my radar. Yes.
I may rank Spider-Man actually number 1, but that's a conversation for another day.
Spider-Man number 1 where?
As in he has the number 1 rogues gallery.
I can see. I'm not going to argue with anybody that has that opinion. Yeah. I mean, my heart is in Gotham for obvious reasons.
Right. Yeah.
Mainly because Harley Quinn is there and Catwoman, but no.
And again, that's a different podcast too.
That's later at night podcast. No. That's one of those calling. Yeah. But anyway, no. But I won't argue anybody that has that opinion for sure. But yeah, this again, the fact that it's Daredevil centric, but it pulls in like the rest of the Marvel heroes as well. I dig that.
Likewise.
So it sounds really cool to me. Okay. And then I'm pretty sure that was the last one I wanted to mention, Donnie. I think that's it.
I'm going to be getting the new Hulk and Venom. I definitely, obviously, enjoyed the last Venom run. We just talked about that.
Oh, you mean regular Hulk, right?
Yes, because I've been enjoying Immortal Hulk, and I know that it's getting ready to be relaunched, and I want to see where that character goes, at least for a while. So. Yeah.
Do you know the title of that?
I forget, but I like I said, I saw that.
The title of that title, but the book.
Right.
Oh Christ!
Somewhere in the name is the word Hulk. I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, I would hope so.
Right.
Because if it's not, that'd be really, really, what are they going to call him? The green guy? The green guy. The green fella. That's it. Yeah. Get a little Sheamus action going. But yeah, so that's what's coming up in December and January in Marvel, and it's interesting stuff. And you know what? We'll probably cover a lot of that on this podcast. So if you want to follow along, do it.
Actually, it looks like it's just going to be called Hulk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Not even Incredible.
From the first Rage Out to the last.
The cover of number 1 looks amazing. So
when is that due? Does it say? Because I'm adding it to my digital poll list.
I want to say it was November.
Okay, I'm adding that to my digital poll list.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of good stuff, Donnie, from Marvel.
Yeah. Full launch in November.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of good stuff. And you know what? I know you're a fan of Hulk.
Yes.
He's up there with Venom and the like.
Yeah.
So I think we'll in addition to Spider-Man and Venom, I think we'll make an extra effort to cover some Hulk on here. So all
right, fine with that.
Do it. So that's the news. It's all very exciting. More reading, and
if you actually want to hear me go on just a bit of a Hulk rant, you might want to stick around for the mid part of this episode when we talk about episode 3. Won't be anything profane, won't be anything that little ears can't hear, but I do have something to say.
I don't think I've ever heard you swear, by the way. I think it's...
I don't swear. I'm not saying I never did. Yeah.
Not even when you watched that Game 7 with the Leafs. Come on, you didn't swear.
I swear in PG.
I got to get you to watch something really aggravating by the Leafs and just have you swear once. Privately, okay. I won't record it or anything. Just I just want to see you, rage out to the Leafs like I do. But anyway, speaking of the Hulk is actually, at least my version of the Hulk, the Blue Hulk, as I call him,
okay,
is coming back September 25th. You know why? Because that's when the Leafs start the preseason. So that's well, see how peaceful and zen I am right now? There's 2 reasons for that. 1, I'm not searching Twitter. And 2, the Leafs aren't in action. So that's why I'm nice and peaceful.
Understandable.
So, yeah. So, all right. So we've got 2 issues. We'll be back to the comics very shortly. Those comics will be when they come out. Obviously, we can't review them if they're not available to read. It's part of the problem, part of the whole deal. They have to be out in stores or online for us to be able to read and review them. So we can't touch those until they're released. However, we have 2 episodes of the fantastic new show from Disney Plus and Marvel, What If. So, Donnie, let's get into What If, episode
3. 3, yes.
What happened in this? Give us a brief...
This asks the question, what if the Avengers were never formed?
By the way, I just want to make a quick comment.
Yes.
Jeffrey Wright as the Watcher is great.
Yes.
But I think it's sabotage. I think Commissioner Gordon has co-opted the Marvel Universe and is trying to destroy it from...
Oh, that's an interesting... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because, he's playing... It's a joke because he's playing Commissioner Gordon, but I digress.
Okay. That's interesting. So...
Yeah, he's got into the MCU through back channels and is now dismantling it from within.
What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? And it kind of picks up on a familiar spot, a scene from Iron Man 2, with Tony sitting in the giant donut.
Please exit the donut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is the conversation that he has with Nick Fury and Black Widow. And as they start to talk, suddenly Tony keels over.
Yeah.
Clutches his throat, keels over. I gotta say, I should laugh, but I was. Well, that's not what I expected. I mean, I don't exactly know how I expected that they were going to be offed, but I didn't expect this kind of murderer's row of killing all the Avengers off in quick order. So
Tony Stark forever, from the first bite of the donut to the last.
So not long after that, out in the desert, Agent Coulson finds Mjolnir. And Hawkeye centers his bow on Thor, who, remember, from Thor, the original Thor, the movie, he was right. He was depowered at this point. So when Hawkeye slips and his arrow shoots and it goes through Thor's chest, Thor is killed. Not long after this, Hawkeye dies too.
Yeah.
So things are starting to...
Everybody's dying. It's like an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
Minus the nudity, but yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it's on Disney Plus now. So
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean.
So Natasha, she tracks down Betty Ross looking for some insight into Tony's death. Mm-hmm. Betty examines the antidote and the syringe, but Bruce is hiding in her lab, and Natasha uncovers Bruce. Bruce then hulks out, a la the campus scene in the first Incredible Hulk movie. However, he suddenly explodes as General Ross is attacking. So now we have Thor gone, Hawkeye gone, Iron Man gone, and the Hulk gone. Within 10 minutes. I
expected none of that. It was shocking. In the best possible way. You know what I did? It's a small detail, but I really loved it. The Hulk looked like the Edward Norton version from the first film when he was hulked out.
That's a good point.
I love that detail.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, this is going to anger some people, but I'm used to that by now. Who knows how many people I've pissed off over the last 5 minutes. But anyway, I prefer the 2008 Hulk film over any other. Well, okay. The Hulk and the first Avengers movie are the two best iterations of the Hulk he's had in the MCU. Everything since has been a blank show. You know what?
Oh, well, we're on kind of the same page there. So, like I said,
you know what word is the blank.
Yes, buckle up in a few minutes. So yeah. I'm going to have some things to say.
But I really like the detail in the art that it looked like.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, again, the animation in this has been outstanding for every episode.
You know that was filmed in Toronto, by the way. Not the animation, the scene from 2008 in the Hulk.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
That was the University of Toronto. Yeah, so we get some cool stuff over here.
Awesome. Yeah. So Thor's death has attracted the attention of Loki, who arrives with an Asgardian army.
Oh God!
They threaten to invade Earth. So Nick Fury strikes up a bargain with Loki, hoping to uncover the person responsible. Yeah, hokey. A hokey bargain.
A hokey dokey.
A hokey dokey bargain. Looking for the person responsible for all these murders. So what we see, and this is important here, in this timeline, Hope, not the four-letter word Hope Van Dyne.
Or not the Superman S logo.
Right. In this version, Wasp has become a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent.
Yeah.
And she was killed by the Winter Soldier. So that is very important because Nick Fury, who is actually Loki disguised as Nick Fury, confronts the murderer at Hope's grave. And it turns out to be Yellow Jacket, a.k.a. Hank Pym, also the first Ant-Man.
Yeah.
And he's become consumed with vengeance.
Yeah.
After the death of both Hope and Janet on S.H.I.E.L.D. missions.
Understandable.
So, well, there's something else I need to say after that. But let's go on with the narrative here before I talk about that. So, they're able, Loki, again, they're able to take Hank Pym into custody. But, of course, Loki double-crosses Fury and humanity, and he ends up enslaving humanity. Sure. As you knew he would. It's Loki. You can't trust Loki. Yeah, exactly.
He's the god of mischief, for God's sakes.
Exactly. If
you trust him, you do it at your own peril, I say.
So the episode ends with Fury enlisting the help of Captain Marvel, who has returned to Earth, and preparing to dig Captain America out of the ice.
I love that ending. You know what, Donnie? I really want to. I don't know if they're going to do this in future episodes, but I really wanted to see the continuation of this world. Like I wanted to see what Avengers team would pop up out of this scenario.
All right. Because are we talking about the same world? I mean, is T'Challa part of this?
Because I know we're supposed to get a multiversal Avengers team. That's been teased.
Yes.
So do all these episodes connect, even though they're different worlds? Like, are they somehow going to bring them together?
Yeah. That's a good question. So, now, I have a couple things to say here. First of all, it was another great episode. I like the contrast. You got the episode with T'Challa being
which was nice, uplifting.
Exactly, and then they bring you crashing right back down with a very dark episode.
Yeah, and then the next episode they kick you while you're down.
Exactly, even darker.
They beat you with a chair. They give you a concerto with that episode.
Exactly. And then they hit you with the bloodbath. So,
yeah.
Okay, as far as what this does right, I want to say this. I've always contended, this is my opinion. I don't even know if Adam agrees with me on this. I've always said that I think the weakest of the Marvel films, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is Ant-Man, the first Ant-Man. And I say that because I think that started in the wrong place. It's not that I dislike Scott Lang, but Hank Pym is a deeper, richer character. As you can see right here, you could not have pulled off this episode with Scott Lang. You need somebody who has some depth like Hank Pym. And that's what I think this this episode did right is it showed you, if you read some of Hank Pym in the comics, again, he has an edge to him. And I think
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Extending that to this,
especially if you go into the Ultimates books.
Exactly. So I think they did that right. So that was something that I was impressed with.
I agree. I don't know if you want me to comment on your Ant-Man comment about the movie being.
Go ahead. Give your opinion. Everybody has different opinions. So
okay. Well, while I agree, it's okay. It's a different category. So I have most disappointing.
Okay.
And sort of lackluster. I think Ant-Man is okay, but lackluster.
Okay.
Like Ant-Man 2, when you see the trailer, it's not like, oh my God, I can't wait to see that movie.
I did love Ant-Man and the Wasp. Primarily because,
Right, but you know what I mean? Like, they're not, they don't feel, when you watch the trailers and when you watch the subsequent movies, they're not must-see movies. You have to see them because they're part of the film saga, but they're not must-see movies, in my opinion. The most disappointing, which is a different ball of wax, are Thor 2 and 3. Like those they're such a disservice to the character, in my opinion, that I was totally disappointed with both of them.
Okay.
For various reasons. But so I get we're in the same sort of arena in terms of Ant-Man.
Right. Now, let me address.
It'd be like starting a franchise with Batman Beyond instead of.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I just when I saw Hank Pym, I was like, I want to see more of Hank Pym, which is what they gave us in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you and I talked about, you made reference to the MCU. Once again, the Hulk being killed here is what I really had a problem with. The MCU doesn't seem to get that part of the Hulk. And it's not that the character is necessarily bad, but in the comics, we have seen the Hulk heal from so much. In the story Hulk the End, we saw the Hulk eaten down to a skeleton by giant bugs. And within like a day or two, he's back on his feet.
Yeah.
And I believe it was Planet Hulk when he was on Sakaar. He jumped into lava.
Yeah.
And his flesh is burned off. He was able to survive that.
Yeah.
We've seen him survive so many things that he's basically unkillable. So I don't have a problem with them saying, okay, well, let's render, Bruce Banner in a coma so the Hulk can't come out, or let's send the Hulk into another dimension or way far away. Sure. But nothing should be able to put the Hulk down permanently. And I don't care if he exploded within a day or so. If he's going to lay in that coffin, he's going to be back out on his feet.
Yeah, the blobs of his parts will reassemble.
Yeah, exactly. So that was my only issue and especially coming on the heels of an Endgame when he's like, oh yeah, his arm is permanently damaged. How? How do you permanently damage the Hulk's arm? I don't care if it is the Infinity Stone.
I think they permanently damaged him when he appeared in Thor Ragnarok, but they permanently damaged the character and then they made it worse when he became.
Yeah. So I hate because I love the MCU.
For the most part,
go ahead, sir.
For the most part, it's great.
Yeah.
But we can't sit here and say it's perfect. It's done nothing wrong. I mean, fans that do that are on both sides of the aisle are disingenuous. Mm-hmm. So I think
Professor Hulk in particular. There are some a panel out there, and I forget exactly what happened, but the Hulk is, and again, I'm talking about Professor Hulk is like burned down to his flesh. And within a few seconds, he's whole again. He has that kind of healing factor.
Yeah. So, but in the MCU, he makes jokes. He takes selfies with kids at breakfast. It's like,
and he doesn't get angry. So
yeah, somehow they've lost. I don't know why. You can't blame the deal with Universal on this, but they've lost the essence of the character. Yeah. Part of the appeal of the Hulk, way back when Stan Lee created him, was the Frankenstein aspect of it, and the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of aspect of it. The horror elements, even though I'm not a huge horror fan, the horror elements help sell the character.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we neutering that?
Right.
It's the same as writers say, well, it's too hard to write Superman. No, it's not. You're a writer. Use your brain.
Right. Superman is such a layered character. How could you say it's hard to write? I mean, yes, there was a time when he was that powerful, but they just figured out a way to make that more complex.
And the same with the Hulk. You're telling me you can't write? If you're a writer and you say, well, we've run out of ideas to do the tortured monster. No, there's ways to do it. Even Professor Hulk, the comic version is far more, thoughtful. There's more layers, as you allude to, than what the MCU gave us in his last appearance.
Yeah. And he's not a combination. Oh, I should say this. The MCU Hulk is a combination of Banner and the Hulk. The Professor Hulk is a completely different personality.
Yeah, they've got It's
the
like
Hulk
a multiple personality disorder.
Yes, he has a dissociative identity disorder. And every version of the Hulk is some aspect of Bruce Banner's personality. So,
and the MCU hasn't touched on that at all. Like, they've botched that
to
high heaven. So, he's gone from really great in the 2008 movie, which I think is underrated, to fantastic in the first Avengers film, to then basically an overgrown baby in Ragnarok, and to now a joking buffoon in Endgame, to an impotent joking buffoon in Endgame and
Infinity War.
Infinity War and Endgame, thank you.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with you on the handling of the Incredible Hulk, 100%.
So what would you rate that episode, sir?
I'll give it a solid 4.
Out of
the
5?
Hulk thing is ridiculous, like you said.
Yeah.
But the rest is really good.
So out of 5, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I would give it, a 4 out of 5 or a B.
The Hank Pym, like, that twist was so unexpected. I mean, everything was unexpected, but that twist, I wasn't even thinking of Hank Pym at the time. When I'm like, who's responsible for that? Like, who?
No,
who
I definitely, yeah. I was thinking Hydra goons.
I'm thinking Red
various
Skull,
Hydra villains. Yeah.
Or something like that. But yeah, it was a lot of twists and turns. I liked it. The voice cast, a lot of them were MCU people.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them weren't, and even the ones that weren't did good jobs in their perspective. Like I think, I don't think Black Widow was Scarlett Johansson.
I don't believe so. It didn't sound that way.
And I know for a fact that Tony Stark was not Robert Downey Jr. But both, whoever did voice them, did a solid job on both accounts. And the animation, as we said, was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sir.
As was the next episode, episode 4. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart? And so we start off with a very simple premise. Yeah. Metaphorically speaking, of course. So we start off with this simple premise. Instead of Doctor Strange's hands being damaged in the car wreck, Christine Palmer is killed.
Voiced and played by Rachel McAdams.
Rachel McAdams, yes.
Canadian girl. Donnie, she went to my university. Not when I was there, because if I was there and I saw her, I wouldn't have got the grades that I got because I'd be too distracted. And all that is to say that Rachel McAdams, Donnie, speaking of multiverses, is on the list.
So did that version of you go to school with her? And did you fall in love at school, maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. 100%.
All right. Yeah. Well, what happens here is that the would-be Sorcerer Supreme now ends up in this like spiral of depression, and so he goes through all the like stages of grief, but he never really makes it to the stage of acceptance.
Yeah.
So he visits Kamar Taj as usual, and we see variations of him trying to stop that event. He tries to make, he uses but it was the Eye of Agamotto, right? That's what he used. Okay. Yeah. So he uses the Eye of Agamotto to like try and somehow alter what happened. And every time he makes a slight alteration, it still ends up with Christine dying.
Yeah.
So this is I believe they call it like a fixed event.
Yeah, a constant or whatever.
Yeah, something that absolutely cannot be changed. And we see that the Ancient One tells him, if this doesn't happen, you can't become the Sorcerer Supreme.
Yeah.
So this has to happen in every reality. But like I said, he has not made it through the stages of grief to acceptance. So he does not accept that. And he keeps on trying to change this.
Yes.
So, and this is where things get really dark. And the Ancient One makes the decision to split Doctor Strange into two parts.
Yeah.
So now you have the good Doctor Strange who realizes that as bad as this is, I have to accept it and move on. And then you have the other one that just keeps spiraling down.
So basically we have Doctor Strange and Doctor Evil.
Ah, exactly.
Anyway.
So the Doctor Strange, the evil Doctor Strange, travels to a hidden library in search of Cagliostro's lost books and writings.
Mm.
And eventually, after using a bunch of various magic techniques, one of which I wondered because it was kind of a deep red color, I'm like, is that the like chaos magic that they were talking about in, we talked about with Scarlet Witch?
Yeah.
They talked about that chaos magic. I noticed the shade of that. Maybe I'm reading into it, but with that, I wondered. I'm like, is that the kind of chaos magic that Agatha was talking about? So, okay, so now this version of Doctor Strange starts to conjure and absorb the essence of all these like various beasts from these various dimensions. Very kind of horrific looking.
Yeah.
Yeah, including this one like tentacled beast, and I don't think they ever identified the names, but it was just a plethora of mystical creatures, and he absorbs them all and becomes more and more like evil as this process happens.
So it's kind of like a magic cannibal, because he's eating their essence.
Exactly. Yeah, he is. I mean, you see it like him, like they're like absorbed into him.
Yeah.
It's not just like they're where he's like taking their energy and leaving them alive. They are actually consumed within him. So eventually, he's able to bring Christine back, but it's only temporary. What he has done is broken that reality. And by the way, he defeats the good version of himself.
Yeah.
And in bringing her back, he has absolutely broken that reality. And so not only does she disperse, but that entire reality basically implodes on itself. And he's imploring the Watcher. He's like, do something, you're a god. And the Watcher's like, no, I'm not. And you made these decisions. And
even if I could and I wanted to take the punishment on you instead, it's like I can't.
Yeah, it reminded me of kind of the dark multiverse that DC just put out.
Yeah.
And it's like it's the worst case scenario, and that's what we saw here. The worst case scenario. So not only do we not have the Sorcerer Supreme, not only is he not able to bring Christine back for very long, but that entire universe just kind of collapses within itself.
Yeah, this was really dark. I mean, this is the guy. Without question, to me, this is the darkest thing that Marvel Studios has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always thought, you'd never see Zack Snyder direct a Marvel Studios film because they never go to that level, right?
And this would have been a lot darker in live action. It would have been.
But I said, if there was a live action version of this, I could see Zack Snyder directing it. That's how it fit his style.
Yeah.
Quite good. But in terms of the story, I could see Doctor Strange going to those places to try everything within it, being so powerful. If you suffered a tragic loss of that degree, you would, like any person, and I don't think anybody would say they wouldn't try to bring back a loved one if they had that kind of ability.
Yes.
So his decision to try and do that is 100% understandable. I think we all would in that situation. But I like that there was a boundary of, there are some things that even magic cannot undo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like the monsters were actually legitimately freaky looking and scary looking. When he was trying to take the essence of the different magical beings. Mm-hmm. And I got to give credit to the animation because, like, how stunning did Christine look? I mean, maybe it's a credit to Rachel McAdams that she looks just as stunning in live action as she does in animation. I don't know if that's what it. But I was like, hold on, like I should not be getting attracted to a cartoon. Yet here we are.
You know what? I actually watched it with my youngest daughter, and there was a point, I believe it was Wong, who told Doctor Strange, he's like, you're messing with time. You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, you hear that, Barry Allen? Wherever you are.
Yeah. So. This episode was kind of like, Doctor Strange for years has watched, an alternate universe where Barry Allen screws up the timeline. And all of a sudden he's like, yeah, Barry, you think you can screw up the timeline? Hold my beer.
Exactly. Watch this. So, yeah, what would you give this episode, sir?
Oh, this was an absolute 5 out of 5.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think they would go this dark. They would go down this path, but the final product I thought was exquisite. So
the last 2 episodes have really taken full advantage of playing with the multiverse. Mm-hmm. Like this is the what if concept being explored absolutely fully.
I'm interested to see like what parts of these, if we see this in the future of this franchise. I want to know what elements are going to be reused. So
yeah, I'm curious how they unite some of these people. Mm-hmm. That's going to be fascinating. So 2 great episodes. And this show, what are we? 5 episodes? 4 or 5 episodes?
4 episodes.
I don't want to call it just yet, but as of right now, if it continues like this through to the end of season 1, mm-hmm. It may end up being my favorite Marvel Disney Plus show. Wow,
impressive.
So we'll see how it goes, but for right now, it's doing the job. Mm-hmm. That brings this episode to an end, Donnie. But for those that still want to talk about What If or Marvel Comics or Marvel Studios or anything regarding Marvel, you can with us on social media. So, Donnie, where do they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk comics. Let's talk collectibles. Let's talk Marvel. Let's talk Green Lantern.
Awesome. If you want to find me, it's at Adam_Leafs fan on Twitter. We have the at MMNPDC Podcast Network Twitter page. That one is just where mostly I just post the episodes. And occasionally I'll forget which account I'm signed into and start talking about my multiverse lives on there, but that'll be nice. We also have the Facebook page where the link is below in the description. Click it. I will add you, and we can continue the conversation there if you so choose. But until next time, remember that the Marvel's What If is forever. From the first time Doctor Strange travels back in time to save Christine and fails, to the last. So long, everybody.